India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
Well, good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World in A with me, Jyotsna Kumar.
And I'm Samiksha Srivastava. It's a packed lineup today. Russian Defense Minister has warned that the U.S. could deploy its new Dark Eagle hypersonic missiles near Russia's borders. It has raised tensions between Moscow and Washington. The move, in fact, could mark a major shift in global military balance and even provoke strong responses from the Kremlin. More about this on the show today.
Also on the show, Tesla shareholders have overwhelmingly endorsed a massive pay package for CEO Elon Musk that could reach $1 trillion. Now, the pay package won more than 75% support from the shareholders. Now, approval of the pay package for Elon Musk could, over the next decade, turn the CEO into the world's first trillionaire. Now, we'll bring you all the details on that story. Let's begin with the headlines.
Afghanistan officials say at least 5 people reported killed in cross-border fire from Pakistan. The violence comes amidst negotiations underway in Turkey.
Largely, he stopped buying oil from Russia.
When do you plan
And he's a friend of mine, and we speak, and he wants me to go there, and we'll figure that out. I'll go. I had a great trip there with Prime Minister Modi. He's a great man, and I'll be going. Yeah.
What it does right is air traffic control.
U.S. President Donald Trump says talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi were going well and that he would be visiting India soon.
U.S. Senate blocks resolution that would have stopped President Trump from attacking Venezuela without congressional authorization. This as pair of U.S. B-52 bombers fly over the Caribbean Sea in the latest show of force.
Israeli army releases video of airstrikes in southern Lebanon on alleged Hezbollah targets. Lebanon says new attacks are fully fledged crime and prevents full implementation of a ceasefire deal with Hezbollah.
United Nations Security Council votes to lift sanctions on Syrian President Ahmad al-Shara. The U.S. resolution was approved by 14 members of the UN resolution was approved with Russian backing, the move while China abstained.
Kazakhstan says it will join the Abraham Accords between Israel and other Muslim nations. The Central Asian Republic has had diplomatic ties with Israel for decades.
After skepticism from Supreme Court justices on the president's use of emergency power to impose tariffs, Trump warned of dire consequences. The president said he had a plan B if the top court ruled against him in the tariff legality case.
Now, Russia and Ukraine are locked in intense fighting in the Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk, with Russian forces advancing and Ukrainian troops putting up a strong resistance.
That's right, Jyotsna. In fact, satellite images reveal heavy fighting movements and even damage in the city, which underscores Pokrovsk's strategic importance for supply routes and logistics. Russia's defense ministry has said that its forces are fighting house to house, aiming to eject Ukrainian troops from the city. It believes capturing Pokrovsk, known as Gateway to Donetsk, would give them a platform to push forward towards Kremrotsk and Sloviansk, which is key Ukrainian-controlled cities in the Donetsk region. In fact, acknowledging the situation in the region, Ukraine denies being surrounded. It has insisted that their troops are still fighting in the region.
Meanwhile, a Ukrainian court has sentenced a Russian soldier to life in prison for killing a Ukrainian prisoner of war, marking the first such ruling. Dmitry Kudashov, who was taken prisoner by Ukrainian forces along with other Russian troops soon after the incident. He pleaded guilty in court but later claimed innocence, wanting a prisoner swap. Ukraine sees this as symbolic, citing numerous Russian executions of Ukrainian prisoners of war, while Russia denies war crimes.
Also, in a related development, a Moscow-backed court in Ukraine's occupied Donetsk region jailed 2 Colombians for 13 years each for fighting for Kiev. They were arrested in Venezuela, handed to Russia and sentenced as mercenaries. Colombia now says that dozens of its citizens have died in Ukraine, where many have joined Ukraine's forces against Russia. Moscow has even prosecuted foreign fighters as mercenaries, carrying up to 15 years in prison rather than treating them as prisoners of war.
And reacting to the situation on the front lines, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced plans to increase funding and support for troops, citing issues with equipment procurement and military service contracts. Now, this decision follows his visit to units engaged in intense fighting in Donetsk and Dnipro regions, where Russia and Ukraine continue to clash.
There were issues raised by the brigades regarding decisions that, unfortunately, are not fully effective. There was also feedback from battalion commanders regarding weapons supplies and support programs. We will increase funding for the brigades and corps on the front line that are engaged in the fiercest fighting.
Well, Sweden and Ukraine have signed a letter of intent to establish a hub in Ukraine for developing new weapon technologies, sharing battlefield expertise and even advanced systems. They have also discussed Ukraine potentially buying up to 150 Swedish Gripen E-fighter jets, with talks ongoing on deliveries and financing options, which includes using frozen Russian assets as well.
Meanwhile, the U.S. has urged European allies to quickly phase out Russian gas imports and instead boost American liquefied natural gas imports. U.S. Energy Secretary Chris Wright and Interior Secretary Doug Burgum emphasized the U.S. can replace Russian gas in Europe, supporting Ukraine and strengthening U.S.-Europe energy ties. Now, the talks in Greece involved over 80 officials, EU energy ministries, and LNG executives, with Burgum criticizing EU climate regulations for potentially hindering energy partnerships.
Fortunately, in the United States, we have an amazing abundance of natural gas. I think we have a tremendous opportunity right now to displace all of the Russian gas, all of it, every last molecule out of Western Europe.
Now, amid nuclear saber rattling between world's 2 largest atomic powers, Russian Defense Minister Andrei Belousov has claimed that the U.S. is preparing to deploy Dark Eagle hypersonic missiles in Europe and Asia.
Now, according to reports, Belousov made these comments during a meeting of the Security Council chaired by Russian President Vladimir Putin. But also warned that these hypersonic missiles could reach Russia within minutes. According to him, the U.S. Army plans to put into service the Dark Eagle medium-range missile system by the end of this year.
Belousov even claimed that the Dark Eagle missile carries hypersonic warheads and is even capable of striking targets up to 5,500 kilometers away.
Belousov further claimed that Washington intends to deploy these systems both in Europe and across the Asia-Pacific. The Russian defense minister warned that if stationed in Germany, the missiles could reach central Russian targets in roughly 6 to 7 minutes.
The minister also added that in October, the U.S. conducted military exercises named Global Tender 2025, which involved practicing a preemptive nuclear strike on Russian territory.
The report also suggests that during the meeting, Russian President Putin emphasized Moscow's commitment to adhere to the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and said Russia has no plans to abandon its commitments. Now, the United Nations Security Council has removed sanctions on Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara.
The Council voted in favor of a U.S. resolution to lift the sanctions ahead of a Syrian leader's White House visit next week.
Now, the resolution was approved by 14 members of the Council, while China abstained. The vote delisted al-Shara and his Interior Minister Anas Hassan Khattab from the ISIL and Al-Qaeda sanctions list.
Colleagues, with the adoption of this text, the Council is sending a strong political signal that recognizes Syria is in a new era since Assad and his associates were toppled in December 2024. There is a new Syrian government in place, led by President Ahmed al-Shara, that is working hard to fulfill its commitments on countering terrorism and narcotics, on eliminating any remnants of chemical weapons, and promoting regional security and stability, as well as an inclusive, Syrian-led and Syrian-owned political process.
The formal lifting of sanctions is largely symbolic, as they were waived every time al-Shara needed to travel outside of Syria in his role as a country's leader. An asset freeze and arms embargo will also be lifted. Formerly affiliated with Al-Qaeda, Shara's group HTS was delisted as a terror group by Washington as recently as July. In fact, since taking power, Syria's new leaders have sought to break from their own violent extremist past and present a moderate image to foreign powers too.
Now, the move was lauded by Syria, with Foreign Minister Assad al-Shaibani writing on X. Syria expresses its appreciation to the United States and to friendly nations for their support of Syria and its people.
President Donald Trump will now host al-Shara for talks on November 10th. Damascus has said that the Syrian leader will discuss issues including lifting remaining sanctions, reconstruction and even counter-terror during the visit. President Trump has expressed hope that Syria will join other Arab countries that have normalized ties with Israel under the so-called Abraham Accords.
The United States is reportedly preparing to establish a military presence at an air base in Damascus. A report citing multiple sources said that this will help enable a security pact that the Trump administration is brokering between Syria and Israel. Reports said that the base sits at the gateway to parts of southern Syria that are expected to make up a demilitarized zone as part of a non-aggression pact between Israel and Syria.
Though it will be Shara's first visit to Washington, it will be his second to the United States after a landmark trip in the month of September, where he became the first Syrian president in decades to address the UN General Assembly in New York.
And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tanani has sent us this report from UN headquarters in New York.
The United Nations Security Council has approved a U.S. drafted resolution removing Syria's interim president Ahmed al-Shara and the Interior Minister Anas Khattab from the ISIL and Al-Qaeda sanctions list, a major diplomatic shift signaling the global community's tentative acceptance of Syria's new leadership. The United States as the pen holders secured broad backing from council members after revising the draft resolution and removing controversial carve-outs on funding and arms transfer. For Syria, the delisting lifts long-standing restrictions on travel, finance, and other issues. It also strengthens President al-Shara's hand ahead of an upcoming meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump at the White House, where discussions are expected to center on Syria joining the U.S.-led global coalition to defeat ISIL and re-entering the international fold after more than a decade of isolation. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Shifting focus then, President Donald Trump has once again praised Prime Minister Narendra Modi and hinted at a possible visit to India next year.
And this as the two nations continue their trade discussions after U.S. imposed a 50% tariff, including an additional 25% duty over India's purchase of Russian oil.
Speaking to reporters at the White House, the U.S. president said that India has largely stopped buying oil from Russia, while reiterating his strong personal rapport with Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Traffic control equipment. Largely stopped buying oil from Russia.
When do you plan?
And he's a friend of mine, and we speak, and he wants me to go there, and we'll figure that out. I'll go. I had a great trip there with Prime Minister Modi. He's a great man, and I'll be going. Yeah.
When asked directly if he planned to travel to India next year, Trump replied, "It could be, yes." Now, earlier this week, Trump's press secretary Karoline Leavitt had said that the U.S. president feels very strongly about the country's ties with India. She also cited how Trump dialed PM Modi to extend wishes as he celebrated Diwali at the White House with many Indian American officials. Her comments followed Trump's recent claim that India reduced its import of Russian oil. India's External Affairs Ministry in response reiterated that the country's energy sourcing decisions are based on national interest and consumer welfare.
And amid the developments, Trump has once again commented on India's conflict with Pakistan. Earlier this year, this time he's revised the number of jets down during the 3 days of hostilities from 7 to 8, while reiterating his role as a peacemaker in the clashes between India and Pakistan.
Or 8 planes, 7 planes we shot down. An 8th was really badly wounded. But 8 planes we shot down, essentially. And I said, this is war. And they were going at it. And the 2 nuclear nations, I said, I'm not going to make any trade deals with you guys unless you agree to peace.
And with the Democrats sweeping crucial electoral races this week, alarm bells have gone off in the Republican camp.
And this as they look to regroup and strategize ahead of crucial 2026 midterm elections. But the GOP appears divided on how to course correct. On a day when Democrats notched the most high-profile victory in New York City, President Donald Trump blamed his party's bruising losses on the ongoing government shutdown, which is already the longest in U.S. history. Trump now wants Republicans to do away with the filibuster to end the funding gridlock.
I think it's very important. We have to get the country open, and the way we're going to do it this afternoon is to terminate the filibuster. And it's possible you're not going to do that, and I'm going to go by your wishes. You're very smart people. We're good friends, but I think it's a tremendous mistake, really. It would be a tragic mistake, actually. It's time. It's time.
However, Senate Majority Leader John Thune ruled out terminating the filibuster, telling reporters that it's just not happening. Both Democrats and Republicans have been reluctant to eliminate the filibuster. It's a procedural rule in this Senate that requires 60 votes to allow a vote to take place on any legislation.
Vice President J.D. Vance also had a different take on the Republicans' electoral losses. In a post on social media, Vance downplayed the significance of the losses.
However, he urged fellow Republicans to work harder on making a decent life affordable. Vance further wrote that in 2026, the GOP will be judged by the affordability metric. He also urged his party members to stop infighting.
Another prominent Republican, Vivek Ramaswamy, has called on Republicans to cut out identity politics and focus on affordability for ordinary Americans.
Make the American dream affordable. Bring down costs, electric costs, grocery costs, healthcare costs, and housing costs, and lay out how we're going to do it. And number two, cut out the identity politics. It doesn't suit Republicans. It's not for us. That's the woke left's game, not ours. We don't care about the color of your skin or your religion. We care about the content of your character. That's who we are.
Republicans also face two pressing questions. One, how to get Trump's core voter base to come out in numbers when Trump himself is not on the ballot. And two, how long can Trump continue to stay aggressive on the question of tariffs? Now, many GOP strategists have believed that tariffs have begun to hurt Americans as prices of ordinary goods shoot up.
With midterm elections just a year away, Republicans have their task cut out. But the real question remains, can the GOP bury its differences and unite to put up a collective response?
Mr. President, should Republicans that
And after pulling off one of the biggest upsets in modern American politics, New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani faces a new daunting task.
That's right, Jyotsna. His core promise, make New York City affordable again, will now meet fiscal and political realities. During his ambitious campaign, the 34-year-old Democrat socialist promised free buses and childcare, affordable housing and even city-owned grocery stores funded by taxing corporations and the wealthy.
Mamdani has said that he will introduce a 2% tax on the richest New Yorkers, but this would involve working with the New York State legislature and Governor Kathy Hochul, who has said that she is opposed to new income taxes.
Similarly, on Mamdani's promise of free childcare, Governor Hochul has said that she supports the goal but warned of its price tag. At a press conference in the month of September, Hochul had said that the move would cost New York City $7 billion. She later hinted that such a policy could be staggered over time instead of delivered in one go.
Hochul is already contending with a $4.2 billion deficit, almost 4 times last year's gap. Federal cuts to health care and food stamps will fall hardest on New York City. Mamdani is expected to face a $5 billion hole in the next year's budget.
Mamdani also backs lifting the state corporate tax from 11.5% to 11.5% from 7.25% earlier, matching with New Jersey and tied for highest in the U.S. In fact, according to Mamdani's campaign, the tax hikes could raise $9 billion, but it is also risking driving top earners and businesses to lower tax states.
Now, the shadow of U.S. President Donald Trump will also loom large on Mamdani's reign in New York City Hall. Trump, who has berated Mamdani as a communist, has already threatened to withhold federal funding. New York City's budget for the 2026 fiscal includes around $7.4 billion in federal funding, which will be a crucial resource pool for Mamdani's ambitious policies.
And when Mamdani enters City Hall on 1st of January next year, New Yorkers will have their hopes incredibly high. However, the real question remains, can Mamdani deliver on his promises?
Serbia is rocked by unprecedented protests, mounting pressure on the government, marking the deadly Novi Sad railway station.
That's right, Jyotsna. In fact, thousands of pro-government and anti-government protesters gathered outside Serbia's parliament building. The anti-government protesters rallied in support of Dijan Herka, whose son was among 16 people killed in November 2024 station roof collapse, sparking a year-long protest movement. Protesters held banners that read, "Dijana, a mother of all of us, and justice is slow but reachable," while chanting slogans critical of Serbian President Alexander.
All this is intended to obscure the dignified gathering that took place on November 1st in Novi Sad and to rub salt into the bitter wound of Dijana Hurka and all of us who have been pursuing justice for a year.
Senior government ministers joined supporters to welcome marchers who had walked for several days from Kosovo, lighting flares and playing nationalist songs. Police in riot gear cordoned off the area around Vučić supporters to separate them from a large group of anti-government protesters who chanted slogans against Vučić. The rally was the biggest pro-government gathering so far this year. Now, France is still hunting for the suspects of the Louvre heist.
That's right. In fact, some suspects have been arrested, but the precious jewels are yet to be retrieved. Now, glaring lapse has come to light. The Louvre's deepest security flaw is a password which anyone can guess. Experts now say that passwords like 123456 still cost millions as hackers easily break them away.
But in the heart of Paris, the world's most famous museum hid its secrets behind a simple password. Watch the story to know more about this.
The world's biggest museum, housing jewels worth over $45 billion and visited by over 9 million visitors every year, it has an elaborate security system. But there is a simple problem, believe me. The password for the surveillance software is as simple as Louvre. The Louvre heist wasn't just a brazen daylight robbery, it was a textbook tale of security complacency colliding with high-tech failure. Investigators uncovered a jaw-dropping lapse. The museum's video surveillance system was locked behind the password Louvre. This glaring oversight, a single word easy enough for a casual guess, opened digital gates to a theft worth over $100 million. Social media erupted. Elon Musk's response was pointed and succinct, one word: wow. France's Court of Auditors urged the Louvre Museum to speed up its security modernization plans as a priority.
Tout ce qui concerne la modernisation.
Everything related to the modernization, restoration, securing of the Louvre and the Louvre's infrastructure. We have spent half as much as the amount dedicated to acquisitions and exhibitions. That is, 80 million euros.
4 suspects in the Louvre heist were arrested last week, including 3 believed to be members of the team of 4 that was filmed using a basket lift to reach the museum's window. They face preliminary charges of theft by an organized gang and criminal conspiracy. The jewels have not been recovered.
And for now, it's a wrap on this edition. World DNA to continue after we come back. Lots lined up after we come back. The big story that we're tracking is the latest on Afghanistan-Pakistan tensions. 5 people have now been killed in brief cross-border fire between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
And the first phase of voting in Bihar elections is complete. The Indian Election Commission has recorded around 64.46 voter turnout. We'll get you all the details on that story also on the other side. Keep watching Beyond What Is One.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
राष्ट्रीय स्वयंसेवक संघ. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesaria at 100.
Hello and welcome back. You're watching World in A with me, Jyotsa Kumar, and my colleague Sumisha Srivastava. Let's begin with the headlines.
Very soon. It's going to be very soon. And Gaza's working out very well.
President Donald Trump says he expects a U.S. coordinated international stabilization force to be on the ground in Gaza very soon.
President Donald Trump says Iran has asked for heavy U.S. sanctions against Tehran to be lifted, and he is open to having a discussion about it.
Israeli army tanks take positions near the border with Lebanon after the military carried out heavy airstrikes on southern Lebanon. The strikes come as Israeli forces claim Hezbollah is trying to rebuild its military capabilities in the region.
The United Nations Security Council votes to lift sanctions on Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara. The U.S. resolution was approved by 14 members, with Russian backing the move while China abstained.
U.S. government shutdown forces flight cancellations at major airports. Airlines will begin implementing up to a 10% reduction in flights, complying with the Federal Aviation Administration order.
Largely stopped buying oil from Russia.
When do you plan?
And he's a friend of mine, and we speak, and he wants me to go there. We'll figure that out. I'll go. I had a great trip there with Prime Minister Modi. He's a great man, and I'll be going.
What it does right is air traffic controls.
U.S. President Donald Trump says talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi were going well and that he would be visiting India soon.
U.S. Senate blocks resolution that would have stopped President Trump from attacking Venezuela without congressional authorization. This as a pair of U.S. B-52 bombers fly over the Caribbean Sea in the latest show of force.
Afghanistan officials say at least 5 people were reported killed in cross-border fire from Pakistan. The violence comes amid negotiations underway in Turkey.
Tesla shareholders have approved an $878 billion pay plan for Elon Musk With more than 75% support, the vote is seen as a renewed bet on his push to take Tesla beyond EVs into self-driving, robo-taxis and even humanoid robots. And our top focus this hour is the latest on Afghanistan-Pakistan tensions. 5 people have been killed and 6 wounded in brief cross-border fire between Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Now, and this is an incident where both the countries blame each other. The development comes as talks are underway in Istanbul in a third round of engagement aimed at ending cross-border terrorism and consolidating a fragile ceasefire that was initially agreed upon after border clashes last month.
Afghanistan spokesperson Habibullah Mujahid, in a post on social media, accused Pakistan forces of open firing on Spin Boldak region, adding that Afghan Taliban has not retaliated out of respect for the negotiating team. Also to prevent civilian casualties is what he said. However, he highlighted that in the previous rounds of talks, both sides had agreed to extend the ceasefire and prevent any act of aggression.
Pakistan denied the accusations and put the blame on Afghanistan. The country's information ministry said the firing was initiated from the Afghan side, to which its security forces responded immediately, but in a measured and responsible manner. According to reports citing officials at the Spin Boldak District Hospital in Afghanistan, 5 people, 4 women and 1 man, have died in the incident. 6 others have been wounded. Now, there are no immediate reports of victims from the Pakistani side.
Negotiations in Istanbul reached an impasse last week that came to finalizing ceasefire details, with each side accusing the other of not being willing to cooperate. In fact, both sides also warned of a resumption of hostilities, that is, in case of failure of the ceasefire deal.
Security issues are at the heart of the dispute between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Islamabad accuses Kabul of harboring militant groups, particularly the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan (TTP), a claim that the Taliban government rejects. All right, to discuss more, we're now being joined by Dov Zakhim, one from Washington, D.C. He is a former Undersecretary of Defense in George W. Bush administration and currently Senior Advisor at the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Thank you so much for joining us. Looking at the clashes that are happening right now, how fragile do you think the ceasefire is in context of the talks being held in Turkey?
Well, no ceasefire is guaranteed. And obviously, the TTP people have every interest, I think, in causing trouble, causing friction between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And I'm not sure that they would really want to see a ceasefire. Both sides accuse each other. That's normally the case when you have hostilities or near hostilities. And of course, the fire doesn't help because, again, as you reported, each side blames the other for the deaths, for the fire, and so on. So given that the TTP has been a long-standing problem for Islamabad, it's not clear to me that this ceasefire would necessarily hold. It could, but fragility tends to accompany ceasefires.
Right. Mr. Zakhim, a follow-up question. In your view, what role do you think the Arab countries have at this stage in ensuring that there is a long-term solution that we are looking at?
Well, I mean, nobody wants to see any kind of hostilities in this part of the world. India is, after all, a nuclear power. Pakistan is a nuclear power. And Afghanistan is still trying to find its way. I mean, after all said and done, the Taliban still is not really operating internationally as a legitimate government. It's there, but the economy in Afghanistan is hurting very badly. And so there's a lot of tension here. And given all of that, there's clearly an international interest, given what's going on in Gaza, given what's going on right now in the Caribbean, the tensions there, the tensions in East Asia with China bullying its neighbors. The last thing the world needs is another clash that could drag Pakistan again into some kind of conflict. So one hopes that the ceasefire discussions in Turkey will eventually lead to a true ceasefire. I think it's in the interest of both Afghanistan, which has to get its economy in order, and Pakistan, which wants stability. It's in the interest of both to really control any kind of terrorism, whichever side of the border it's coming from.
Right, and how about the role of U.S.? I know that Trump, we also know that Trump has been one leader who has also said that he has been able to resolve a lot of wars. Do you think there would be involvement of the U.S. in this, and will Trump may play a role here too?
Well, you know, Mr. Trump claimed that he was able to calm the tensions between India and Pakistan, and as you know, at least the Indians were not very happy with that. They felt that this was worked out locally in the region. And after all said and done, Trump still is dealing with Putin in Russia. He's dealing with the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire. He has to make sure that the first one works. And there's a buildup, as I mentioned, in the Caribbean. He's just talked about Nigeria. He's got a lot on his plate internationally. And then, of course, our government is still shut down. And he's becoming more and more involved in that, as he needs to be. So he's got an awful lot on his plate. And maybe at some point he'll turn to this. Both sides would have to want him to. But it seems to me right now, given that Mr. Erdogan and Turkey are clearly trying to broker a deal, why not let them go ahead and do it without necessarily us getting involved in some ways making it more difficult for Turkey to pursue what it's trying to do. Let's see if the Turks succeed. We would hope they would.
Yes, Mr. Zakim, point taken, and needless to say that Trump had earlier claimed that he will ensure that the hostilities between the two countries come to an end. Appreciate you joining us on the broadcast.
Thank you.
Shifting focus to India then, the first phase of voting in the Bihar elections is now complete. The second phase is now scheduled for 11th of November.
And, well, the results will be declared on 14th of November. And according to the Indian Election Commission, around 64.46% voter turnout has been recorded in the first phase.
Under the Election Commission's International Electorals Visitor Program, 16 delegates from 7 countries, namely Indonesia, Colombia, the Philippines, France, Belgium, South Africa and Thailand, have visited polling booths at Patna, and that is to review the arrangements made by the Election Commission of India.
The Bihar contest will see the Nitish Kumar-led National Democratic Alliance take on its primary rival, the Congress-led Grand Alliance.
The contest will also see the assembly election debut of strategist turned politician Prashant Kishore Jan Suraj Party. Since the 2020 assembly elections, the composition of the alliance in Bihar has changed. The Mukesh Sahani-led VIP has joined forces with the opposition, and the LJP-RV and RLM are now in National Democratic Alliance.
LJP-RV is contesting from 29 seats, making it the largest junior ally in NDA. The BJP and the JDU settled for 101 seats each. Smaller allies like Jitan Ram Manchi's HAM and Upendra Kushwaha's RLM were each given only 6 seats.
The RJD is contesting 142 seats in the Mahagathbandhan with 61 seats for the Congress. In fact, there are 20 seats for the CPIML, 10 for VIP, 9 for CPI and 4 for CPIM and 2 for the debutant Indian Inclusive Party, which is the IIP. Nomination papers were rejected of 3 candidates, 2 from VIP and 1 from RJD. So in total, the alliance has 251 candidates in the fray and 3 seats without an alliance candidate. Meanwhile, 11 seats are set to witness friendly fights between the allies.
In 2020, the NDA secured a majority in the Assembly, winning 125 seats, whereas the Grand Alliance won 110 seats. The BJP, JDU, HAM and VIP formed the NDA in the 2020 polls. The BJP improved its position between the 2015 and 2020 polls. It won 53 of the 157 seats it contested in 2015 and 74 of 110 seats in 2020. The JDU saw a dip in its performance over the last 2 elections. Nitish Kumar's party won 71 seats out of 101 it contested in 2015 and 43 of the 115 in 2020.
Meanwhile, the Congress, RJD and the left parties formed the Grand Alliance. The RJD showed a strong performance, having won 80 of the 101 seats it contested in 2015 and 75 of 144 seats it fought in 2020. The Congress experienced a decline in performance, having won 27 seats in 2015 and then 19 seats in 2020.
The BJP is probably looking at Chirag Paswan not merely as a junior partner, but also as a strategic asset. The Chief Minister Nitish Kumar seeking a 10th term, the LJP RV seat could prove pivotal in the government formation. Even though the LJP failed to perform in 2020, it registered a 100% success rate in a 2024 general election, winning all 5 of the 5 seats it had contested. Shareholders of Tesla have approved a historic pay package for its CEO Elon Musk.
The board says that it could be worth up to $1 trillion, though its cash in hand value is pegged at about $878 billion, which also makes it one of the largest pay deals in corporate history.
Now, the deal gives Musk the possibility of $1 trillion in stock over the next decade for hitting ambitious performance targets. However, the board adjusted the package so that its real value comes to about $878 billion. For Musk to unlock the payout, Tesla must hit tough operational objectives and raise its market valuation.
Specifically, to deliver 20 million vehicles over the period, operate 1 million robo-taxis, sell 1 million robots, Musk must achieve up to $400 billion in crore profit, expand Tesla's market value from its current $1.5 trillion to $8.5 trillion, and each milestone awards Musk 1% of Tesla stock. Fully achieving all awards could equate to about 12% of the company for him.
Well, some large investors, including the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund and proxy advisors, opposed the plan, arguing it could dilate shareholder value. But thanks to Musk's 15% stake in Tesla and high voting rights, the approval was likely. The board had warned Musk might quit if this package did not pass.
This signals that Tesla is doubling down on Musk's strategy, that is, shifting from electric cars into AI, robotics, robo-taxis, and even broader tech ambitions. For shareholders, it's a bet. If Musk delivers, the rewards could be massive, but the targets are extraordinarily bold. For Musk, this is a play for influence. Beyond just pay, the package strengthens his hold and vision over Tesla's future. Well, Google is pushing the frontiers of artificial intelligence and it's now heading to an unexpected location.
Well, documents reviewed by Reuters show the tech giant is planning to build a major AI data center on Australia's Christmas Island, a remote outpost in the Indian Ocean 350 kilometers south of Indonesia.
Well, details on cost, size and the full purpose of the data center remain classified, but strategically, it's catching everyone's attention, with defense experts saying that Christmas Island is becoming a critical frontline for Australia, offering a key point to monitor Chinese naval and submarine activity in the Indian Ocean. Google is now in advanced talks to lease land near the airport and is working with a local mining company to secure power for the facility. The project is also linked to Australia's defense cloud deal with Google, signed earlier this year. Also in a related move, Google has applied to build a subsea cable that connects Christmas Island to Darwin, where US Marines rotate in for 6 months each year. Local residents, long used to limited jobs and patchy internet, are divided. Some see economic benefits, others worry the island could very much become a strategic target. For now, Google and Australia's Defence Department have declined to comment on this remote island in the Indian Ocean. Tech, data and defence are intersecting in a new frontier.
Para-archer Sheetal Devi had a dream. One day she wanted to compete and represent India in an able-bodied event.
That dream is finally coming true. She has been selected for the able-bodied junior team for the upcoming Asia Cup 2025 Stage 3 in Jeddah.
Now, it is the first time where a para-athlete has been selected to represent India in an international competition in an able-bodied event. The 18-year-old finished third in the junior selection trials for the Asia Cup in Sonipat. Devi had won a bronze in the mixed team compound event at the Paris Paralympics 2024.
Sheetal's story is extraordinarily good. She was born in Lodhiar village in Jammu and Kashmir with a rare condition called phosomelia, under which limbs remain undeveloped. With such a condition, no one would ever even dream about pursuing archery. But Sheetal Devi is one in a billion, inspiring everyone. She has come up with a first of its kind technique to shoot the arrow. She uses her foot to hold the bow, and her mouth to draw the arrow, and then uses her shoulder as a releaser, thereby forming a string mechanism for her chin to pull the trigger and launch the very arrow. Sheetal's story is a testament to a remarkable spirit and validates the age-old saying, where there is a will, there is a way. Well, Indian cinema's legend Kamal Haasan turns 71 today. The actor and filmmaker continues to inspire generations with his passion for storytelling.
Born on 7th November 1954 in Tamil Nadu, Haasan entered films as a child artist in Kalathur Kanamam and has since become one of Indian cinema's most versatile performers. With over 230 films to his credit across Tamil, in Hindi, Telugu and Malayalam cinema, he's known for his iconic roles in Nayakan, Hiram and Vishwarupam. A national award winner 4 times over, the 71-year-old star has always pushed creative boundaries.
Be it with his groundbreaking stories or his vision as a director, he's impressed audiences with Vikram, the 2022 action blockbuster that marked his return to mainstream cinema after years. But the actor's journey has not been without controversy, from Vishwarupam facing temporary bans over alleged community offence to political debates surrounding his party. Haasan has never shied away from speaking his mind. The star remains a force of change and creativity. WION wishes Kamal Haasan a very happy birthday.
Well, that's all on World DNA for today. We leave you with some climate stories that are making headlines across the world. Thanks for staying with us. Stay tuned. You're watching WION World this month.